Hi everyone, my name is Taylor and I'm going to be taking you through an exercise program that I designed for equestrians to help optimize your riding. A little bit about me, I am a physiotherapist and I also have a master's degree in human biomechanics. And I think one of the most amazing things about my job is that I'm able to combine my knowledge and my educational background with my number one passion, which is horses and the equestrian sport. I do see a lot of equestrians in clinic, and I also get to be the physiotherapist for our Canadian para-dressage team, which is a dream job. I have so much fun doing it. With that said, I have designed this program to target the fundamental biomechanical principles of riding, so it will be suitable for all disciplines and all levels. So whether you are a beginner or an elite rider, we all have asymmetries, and hopefully I can do a good job through this journey explaining how these asymmetries affect our horse and our performance. At the end of the day, none of us will ever be 100% symmetrical, but if we can try to improve our position and also just be aware of our asymmetries and how they affect our horse, then we can try to adjust and enhance our overall performance. It is a 10-week exercise program designed for equestrians by someone who does understand the sport. Plus, next week I will release a video on warm-up and cool-down protocols that I strongly encourage you to do before and after every ride and workout. Following that, we'll get into the 10-week program. And like I say, the exercises have been selected specifically for riders. So we're going to try to target body symmetry, core strength, stability, balance, proprioception, coordination, all the things that you need as a rider. I will warn you, some of you may see the exercises and think, oh, this looks easy or it seems basic, but I promise you it is so important to go back to the basics. Oftentimes the athletes that want to rush it and do the more exciting exercises actually worsen their weaknesses because they haven't built on a foundation, so the body will compensate, and this could lead to potential injuries or strains, which obviously we want to avoid. Ideally, you will complete each week's video 3 times a week and then supplement it with some other form of fitness that you enjoy, whether that's yoga, Pilates. Cardio is so important. This program doesn't focus much on cardio, but if you could do something like using an arm ergometer or leg ergometer, bicycling, running, treadmill, anything that interests you just to help build up your stamina, that will help you in the saddle. Easy answer to this one. We are in a pandemic and we all have more time on our hands. But honestly, some of you aren't riding your horse, or if you are riding, your competition schedule has likely been cleared for the foreseeable future. So this is the perfect time to really prioritize ourselves, focus on our body, our mechanics. Hopefully, when you get back into the saddle, you could potentially be in a better situation than when you left it. Make sure you subscribe if you are interested in following along with this exercise program. The rest of this video is going to focus on how we have an impact on our horse, what training should look like, and what some of the common problems I see in riders are. Okay, this is my main take-home point. The biggest factor affecting our horses are ourselves. Of course, there's a whole list of other factors. It could be how our saddle fits, what our horse's conformation is like, the list would go on. But how we position ourselves in the saddle and how we use our bodies greatly affects how our horse can use their bodies. So our position alone can either enable their movement or it could potentially block their movement. Without a doubt, as equestrians, we tend to put way more focus on our horse than ourselves. So for example, let's say we want to put our horse into a frame. Many of us will automatically go to our leg and hand aids to do so. But if we are in a non-optimal position, so let's say we're in a lordotic posture where our lower back is arched and hollowed out, more often than not, our horse is also going to have a hollowed out back and their head will be up in the air. This posture is just how the spine works, and it's going to make it very difficult for them to get down into a frame. If this was an ongoing problem, we would start to question what's wrong with the horse, why aren't they going into a frame? Oftentimes we would get an equine chiropractor or massage therapist out assuming that the horse is sore. Chances are your horse is sore, but we need to figure out what the underlying problem is, and we need to start questioning, what am I doing that it could be contributing to this pattern? I can tell you from my experience that oftentimes the horse's muscular imbalances and strains correspond very closely to the physical patterns that I see in the rider. So let's say the rider has a tight right back. This would be in their paraspinal muscles, a big column of muscle that travels alongside their spine. This could potentially put them into a bit of a right side collapse with more weight going through the right seat bone. This is going to increase the pressure going through the right side of the horse's back, and that alone could increase some of the tension through those muscles. Coming back to biomechanics and forces, now that your weight is shifted a little bit, you could have a force coming in kind of at an angle inwards towards the horse's spine. The horse is going to have to compensate for this, and oftentimes what we see is that the horse tends to bulge out in the opposite direction. So you would notice this when going around a corner or doing a circle. In this example, the horse would tend to likely bulge out more towards the left. In doing so, they're going to end up having a little bit of a right side bend, which again is going to put their right paraspinal muscles in a shortened position, which can tighten them up further. Hopefully that made sense. That's just one example out of thousands probably of how our asymmetries could pass down onto our horse. As a human, just imagine that you are running around a track or doing an obstacle course and you have someone running alongside you that's applying a constant pushing force onto you. If it's light enough, you'll still be able to easily accomplish your tasks, but you're going to have to compensate for it, and you'll likely do this by applying some sort of counter force to keep yourself upright and running in a straight line. And I just want you to start thinking about this, because this is what we are doing to our horses if we do have some asymmetries that we haven't addressed. In terms of trainings, athletes tend to do better when they take care of their bodies by doing activities outside of their sport. So in sports conditioning, it's common to assume that your in-game range of motion, or how much you move your joint, is going to be quite small compared to the range of motion needed during training to help create a healthy and balanced body. When you think of it, we are using a small range of motion when we are riding. So if you aren't doing anything to help supplement your fitness out of the saddle, then you may not be getting sufficient range of motion for joint health and muscle suppleness. As a result of this, I do often see muscular imbalances and strains in riders from riding, even more so in those who are training multiple horses throughout the day. Any sort of ligament shortness or muscle tightness or joint blockage is going to create some sort of asymmetry, and it's going to limit our usage through our hips, our pelvis, and spine, which will affect our riding performance. I'll get into some of these details even more in future videos, but right off the bat, some of the most common problems I see in riders are weakness through their glutes, the bum muscles, through the hamstrings, and then associated tightness and shortness through the hip flexor muscles in the front of the hip. These things together are going to end up putting the rider in a chair seat where their legs are going to be in front of their seat. This position ends up creating some tightness and locking in the hips, which is going to make it difficult to maintain a neutral spine while we're riding. It is also common for riders to have weak core muscles. We know how important core strength is while riding because it helps to stabilize our upper body, but it can also help to control our aids. So our seat is actually our primary base of support when we're riding, and this needs to be stable in order to apply a better aid. The combination of all of this often leads to tightness and stiffness through the back, the neck, and into the shoulder region. This is because the riders are going to try to brace to provide themselves with some stability if the muscles we've talked about already aren't strong enough to help provide that stability. Two other main areas of tightness. The first one are our obliques. If these are tight, it can end up creating a little bit of a side tilt in the saddle, or it can make you feel like one leg is longer in the saddle. The last area are our adductors, so the muscles on our inner thighs. Oftentimes, if you see a trainer who isn't familiar with the sport, they're going to take your cue that you're having difficulty applying your leg aid as weakness through the adductors. The reality is it's very rare for riders to have weakness through these muscles. More likely is the fact that your adductors are tight and your opposite muscles, your glute medius, are weak. The glute medius is part of our hip stabilizer muscles, and it comes back to the fact that we need that to be stable. We need our seat to be stable to help us provide a better leg aid. Okay, I will leave it there for today. I'm really looking forward to getting this program going. So please make sure you subscribe if you want to follow along with me. And otherwise, I will see you all next week.